You can make a difference. You can give hope to a child. You can change a life. And that is no small change.
Welcome to another episode of One-on-One. My name is David Staal.
And I'm Chris Reinsma. And today, Dave, guess what we get to talk about?
What, Chris?
We get to talk about strengths, the strengths of our kids. Something that I think sometimes goes really overlooked when in these relationships that we have.
Yeah, you know, we, as everybody knows, we're reaching at-risk kids, and too often that at-risk label just trumps everything. And so we look at kids as being problems, and we notice their problems and all that. But Chris, if I'm a mentor, which I am, but if I'm a mentor, what should be my approach to the relationship so that I can notice strengths?
You know, I think the first thing that you need to do as you're walking into that relationship as a mentor is to do exactly the opposite of what you were just talking about. Not focusing in on the problems the kid has, but just on the kid themselves and who they are. And I think you have to have your radar up for what is this kid like? Who is he or she? What are some of the things that are commendable about them? And the unique thing about a mentoring relationship is that you as a mentor are walking into the relationship as maybe one of the few people in their life that's looking at them not to help solve a problem, but just being with them because they're a cool kid, they're a neat kid. They're someone that you want to be around and build a relationship with.
What are some examples of that, Chris, as far as we're the only person? They're surrounded by people, aren't they?
They are, but think a lot of times where our kids are coming from. There's the reading specialist that may be helping them, that's coming to help them because they're not reading very well. There's somebody who's helping them maybe with behavior. They're seeing the social worker or the school counselor. They're in the principal's office sometimes because they're having trouble on the playground. All these people are kind of in their life because there's problems. And the mentor comes in not because they're having problems, but just because there's somebody that they want to get to know. Talk a little bit about where are some of the areas we could actually look for strengths. If I'm mentoring, what are some of the actual areas I could look for in a kid that I could highlight strengths for them?
Okay, well, there's a few areas, Chris. First is an easy one. Notice what they do well in school. So, you know, there's probably maybe one subject or whatever that they tend to like, and you can encourage that. And by that, you know, Chris, it doesn't mean that they necessarily are an A student in that.
Right.
But I think it's more that they're willing to try.
Yeah.
I had a case real recently where with a little guy I mentor, he didn't want to do his math. I convinced him to do one problem. He did one problem. I gave him a high 5 and said, hey, you're pretty good at that. So he wanted to do the second problem.
Right.
I gave him a high 10.
Right.
You know, and then after that, I gave 5, 10, 15,
15,
well, or
right,
whatever.
right.
But as we progressed through all of his math
Right.
worksheet, I gave him affirmation on it and
Right.
told him that he was doing a great job and noticed how much effort he was putting in, and that made him want to try more.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of noticing where effort is applied. The other way, Chris, is to notice what's your child curious about. You know, too often we look at strengths as being proficiency areas as opposed to curiosity areas. Sometimes, you know, a little guy might be really interested in snakes and
Right.
fish.
Right.
Or, you know, a little girl might be interested in something else that they're asking about,
Yes.
or those are the kind of books they select when you're saying, let's go pick out a book or whatever. But notice where that curiosity is and then affirm that, you know. Wow, you really have a great handle on, you know, on snakes. You really understand them.
Right.
You must really like them a lot.
Right.
It just builds up a child to hear that. And then third, you know, if you're really wanting to know what they do that you can affirm, ask this question. If you could do anything after school today, what would you do?
Right.
That will show where their interest lies, where their curiosity lies, and probably where they have some strengths, and you can start going down that road and affirming that.
And I think, Dave, wouldn't it be true that for a lot of the kids, maybe some of these strengths haven't really had a chance to flourish? I mean, because maybe they're not getting a lot of opportunity to learn about something that they're really curious about, and maybe as a mentor you could help them to do that.
Absolutely. You know, the one thing about some of these strength areas, which would be positive behavior areas too, and positive areas of their life, is that if a mentor will notice them, if you will notice those areas they're more likely to blossom. So Chris, let's continue on with this train of thought. What does it do for a child when you notice their strengths?
You know, as you just alluded to, Dave, I really think it makes them want to try harder.
Right.
You see more effort. And I think you see a building of confidence that when they begin to recognize, wow, I have something in me that I do pretty well, they become a lot more confident in themselves. And that confidence tends to spread not only from that area that maybe you're exploring, but maybe to other things too. And I see kids actually wanting to try things that maybe previously they wouldn't have tried.
Right.
What have you noticed with some of your kids that you've worked with when you've kind of hit on a strength with them?
Well, I think back of the words of William Shakespeare, who said, strong reasons lead to strong actions. Every area that I reinforce and notice as far as a strength area, all of a sudden becomes an area that that child will flourish in. With one of the guys that I mentored, I kept telling him over and over, noticing that he was doing well reading. And by the end of the year, he was reading at a much higher level. And it's
Right.
not because I taught him how to read.
Right.
It was because I noticed his skills, which were very slight in the beginning, and you had to look carefully. But I looked
But they were
carefully,
there.
and they were there. And the more you encourage, it's like nurturing along, the more you encourage, the more things will start to present themselves. And you know, the other thing that works really well, Chris, is the word because. You know, a lot of times we're very capable of telling a child, you're great, you're wonderful, and all of that.
Yeah.
But you have to continue the sentence on with the word because and give them a specific reason, a specific item that you've noticed, a character trait, an action, whatever. But when you continue that sentence, you're great at this because I saw you this or because you are this, then it becomes a believable statement to a child. And wow, you know, our kids are at risk for their, you know, every hour of their life except for the hour they're with us. And when we can build them up during that hour with that word because, some great things can happen for the rest of the hours of their week.
Dave, we come to that time in the program where we are going to strongly pick out a program that's going to win something very special. And what are they gonna win, Dave?
The program that we select today is going to win a $100 gift certificate to the Kids Hope USA online store if they call us within 24 hours of this broadcast. So, Chris, I'm going to muster up all the strength I can and hold this out here.
And look, it's already been pre-rolled before we even, because there's the ball right here. And I'm going to look at this number, and this number corresponds to a number on my sheet. And I see that this winner is Kathy Callow, and she's from Front Range Christian Fellowship in Longmont, Colorado.
In Longmont, Colorado.
And I
wow.
just saw Kathy in September at an event, so I'm happy that she's won the gift card for this time.
All right, so Kathy, get on the phone, call the national office, and say, hey, I'm Kathy. I just won on the one-on-one broadcast that was just recently put on the air on November the 11th. If you know Kathy and you're thinking that maybe she hasn't watched this broadcast,
Which I can't imagine that, Dave.
but on the remote chance that happened, give Kathy a call and say, hey, you need to call the national office. So we look forward to hearing from you, Kathy, and giving you your $100 gift certificate.
Dave, today we had a chance to talk about strengths, and we talked about kind of our approach as a mentor to our children and looking for strengths, some of the ways that we can do that, and what finding strengths for kids really does for them. What's sort of your lasting impression of our conversation today about strengths?
There's one person we forgot to talk to, and that's prayer partners. Prayer partners, here's what I'd suggest. Pray that the child's strengths would be very obvious to the mentor and have that be a positive piece of the relationship that draws them closer together, but pray that those strengths will come out and be noticed. Because, you know, Chris, when a mentor notices those strengths and then affirms those strengths in a real specific way, a child will flourish, will blossom, and their life will change. And we both know that when you change a life,
It's no small change.
well, Chris, here's an idea.
Okay.
Yeah, it came to me the other day. You know how they take books and make them into movies all the time, it seems
Yeah,
like. And
yeah.
they take old TV shows, make them into movies, comics, and they make them into movies.
Yes.
what about One-on-One the movie?
Oh my!
Would that be cool?
That would be so awesome.
I mean, it's rich with material and possibility.
Unbelievable. Who would play you?
Well, let's see. Brad Pitt got rid of that silly mustache. That could be a possibility.
Yes.
Or, I don't know, who would play you?
I don't know. Not sure. I kind of think of a cartoon character of some sort. Mickey Mouse.
You could do that.
Goofy.
Goofy. Donald Duck. Yeah.
I don't know.
Or Wile E. Coyote.
Wile E. Coyote. I
That
like
would be
that.
a good one. Maybe if it was Bugs Bunny and Wile E. Coyote
There you
doing
go.
One-on-one.
Let's work on this idea. I think this should be the focus of all our creative energy from here on out.
Yeah, there we go.
Let's
All
do
right.
this.
Well, yeah.
One-on-one the movie. I like it.
Change.